I did have a question about when birds like to feed the most, because I noticed right after a big rainstorm in the afternoon, my feeders were covered with birds, more birds than I've ever seen. Lots of birds. They were just trying to knock each other off each one of those little ports.
They were hungry.
They were,
They
yeah.
were
And
hungry.
look at how popular, like, the seed in the foreground is. I believe that's special feeder.
Of course.
But they were just, they could not get enough of that. And then that safflower, and then the sunflower meats in the meats house. But so I had asked you, and this is what I wanted to know. Like,
Well-
do they seem to be more hungry after a rainstorm?
They seem to. Really, there's 3 times a day of each day that you'll see birds feeding a lot. Kind of like us. They get up in
Maybe
the morning,
so.
they're hungry. It's time to eat, time to get fuel for the day. So early morning,
Is it like sunrise?
yeah.
Anytime.
You'll hear
Okay.
you'll hear birds singing, especially in
Yeah.
the summertime breeding season, well before the sun's out,
Mm-hmm.
and they're getting up. They're ready to go find food. So they get out and hit the food sources early. So maybe up till 9:30 or 10 o'clock, you see a lot of activity, especially a little bit earlier, and then it wanes a little bit, and you'll see some more probably noon to 2, and sometimes 3. You see a group of birds coming in to feed. And the next busy period is late afternoon, but right before they go to bed. And they do tend to go to bed early. Cardinals and all may stay out a little later. They tend to be very early and very late. But most of the birds, by 5 o'clock, it's time to go. But it's kind of like us. They just need to eat early, need to eat late because they got to go without food now for a while. And in the middle, they're just filling up when they can get the food. Then when it rains, I don't know exactly why that is. We can speculate that, well, they just had to sit for a while without being able to forage.
Yeah,
Then
maybe
maybe an
so.
hour,
Yeah.
they're just hanging onto a limb, waiting on this rain to stop, and then they can run out and get something. Maybe it feels a little cooler, maybe it's a little wet. But yeah, they'll hit the feeder right afterwards.
Maybe they're a little bit like us, that when they know there's a snowstorm, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, we have to stock up, and they know it just rained. I gotta stock up.
Hurry
now.
up and get some food. It may continue to rain.
Yeah,
That could well
yeah.
be it.
We got a break in the rain. Let's go eat. Yeah.
But they do that. And there's a side question to this, and I think a lot of people, I've heard it before, they all seem to come together. You'll see chickadees, titmice, and all the different birds right there together at the same
Right.
time. It's almost like they're following each other around.
Yeah.
They are a little bit. Some of these birds will tend to stay in what I call loose flocks. They tend to move around with one another through the forest. And you'll see periods where there's, especially if you're walking in the woods or at your feeders, there's just nothing, no birds. It's not like the chickadees are here, they're gone, here come the titmice, here come the blue jays. It's either all or nothing.
Yeah.
A few here and there, but they do tend to move around in these loose groups, and it's probably for protection. And it's, wait a minute, Fred may have found some food over there. Let me go check it out.
Yeah.
And they're all watching each other and seeing where they're
Yeah.
feeding. A lot of them feed in different niches around, some of them on the side of trees, some of them under the leaves, some of them on the ground, but they just tend to follow each other. And there's probably some protection from predators in that methodology.
Right.
When
Yeah.
one gives an alarm call, blue jays are good at that, then everybody scatters.
Yeah, I noticed we'll see, and particularly right now, and we talked about this before the show started, probably so many feeding right now. We're seeing a ton of birds at the feeder. We're going through a lot of culls right now
Yeah.
just because the babies are out there, right? And
Yes.
so there's a lot of demand with trying to feed the babies and the new babies that are coming to eat, right?
There's a lot more birds as you get toward the end of the breeding season, really late May, June, July, just down in August. Pretty much all the breeding birds are done with. And if you think about it, each 2 birds is going to produce maybe 3 to 5 other birds. That's from 2 birds, they add 5 more. Whoops, you got a lot more birds out there to feed. So right as the breeding season wears down, you'll see a lot of birds coming to the feeders.